Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Did I catch you
I
at a bad time?
do I need no, do I need to put more light?
Well, if you got more light, that would be nice.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah.
Did that help?
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. I just really started in this business with the lighting and stuff. So I
Yeah.
see that lighting does make a difference. I've been changing and playing with some lights. So it does make a difference. You know, was it hard to get on?
No, no,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay. All right. All right.
Very easy.
Well, welcome to my house.
Well, thank you.
And I've had the opportunity to come to your house.
Absolutely.
But so we've been friends for some time
Mhm.
and learned a little bit about each other, you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, I like to play my little music to get the show started, let people know. Can you hear any music?
I can.
Oh, good, 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 good. Well, welcome, Valerie Fullilove. Is that, did I say that correctly?
That's right. Fully love.
Fullilove, that you are.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's funny. A lot of times people do try whatever their name happens to be, they seem to be a part of that, whether it's love or uh, you could have been Derek, nice person, somebody. I'd be trying to be a nice person, or evil Don, and Don would be trying to be evil, you know. So, well, again, welcome. I appreciate you doing my show, this circuit. Person who wears a lot of hats, and when I've met you, you do wear quite a few hats. I was really surprised. I said, well, there's a lot of people out there that does wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you look good on camera.
Well, thank you.
I think the last time I seen you, I was in New Jersey. Was that the last time that we
Yes.
sat and talked?
Yes.
Okay, okay, all
It
right.
was actually during the pandemic, I believe, because
I
we had
think it
masks
was.
on and everything.
I think it was. It was just amazing how me being asked to be on that show and you having to live in Jersey, right across the street, working. It just blew my mind.
Right,
Oh,
right, right.
yeah. So for the people of the watching audience, the purpose of this show is to try to help people who can see you and see what you do and say, well, if she can do that, and she's pointing out some things that was I was wrestling with, and if these are the ways to go with. I'm going to try some of her ideals, some of Valerie's ideals. It's full of love. So that's why I asked you to be on the show.
Okay.
I think you're a very interesting person. I think you have a lot to offer to society, and the things that you've just done to help me out in my predicaments, it just also blew my mind. Especially as being I say a total stranger because we're all God's children, but
Right.
you had enough faith in me to send out some love. So you are full of love, that's for sure.
Well, thank you. I'll try. You are very easy to kind of engage with. I could see your potential and
Mhm.
your passion and, how
Thank
good
you.
you are at what you did and your uniqueness. So that's what drew me to you.
I didn't know that seeped out like that. I'm glad to hear that.
Mhm.
So tell the watch and also listening audience, the different hats that you wear. What hat are you wearing today?
Nah,
I'm
well,
sure you're busy.
every day I'm wearing multiple hats, but
Mhm.
I'm just a creative person, and I started out writing poetry, which
Okay.
I still do. Uh,
Okay.
the company where I work is a performing arts center, and they have a poetry division. It's
Okay.
called Dodge Poetry, and so they've kind of reenacted my poem writing.
Nice.
That's how I started out. I'm also a songwriter producer,
Okay.
and I'm a published art book publisher. I have
Mhm.
3 books on Amazon,
Mhm.
self-published, and I also write plays and I write screenplays, movies.
Okay.
And I'm also an artist. Right now, I'm working on pencil portraits.
Okay.
That's what I like doing. So I kind of wear all those hats every day, and it's funny because people ask me how long it takes me to do a specific thing, and I can't tell them because I don't stick with one thing for any
Right. Right.
like time. and eventually it gets done. So
Okay. Now you out in the East Coast there, New Jersey, right?
that's correct. You're
Uh,
very close to New York City.
were you born there?
I was actually born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I was about 5 years old. We moved out to Uniondale, Long Island, which is what I call home.
Okay.
And back in 85, 86, I moved to New Jersey when I got married. My ex-husband was actually from New
Hmm.
Jersey,
Okay.
but I still call myself a native New Yorker.
Okay. A native New Yorker. I
Mhm.
I want to go to Brooklyn so bad. I, I've been close to it, but have not actually hung out in Brooklyn because I hear so much about Brooklyn. It just
Yeah,
seems to be the staple, almost like when you hear about maybe Detroit or L.A. or New Orleans.
right.
Brooklyn is one of the number one cities. I'm sure that people in other countries hear
And
about.
Brooklyn is
It,
kind of morphed into generationally into many different types of areas. So
hmm.
right now it's kind of been gentrified, and so it's a little different than when I grew up. And I actually grew up in a Jewish neighborhood. We were the only black family in that neighborhood.
Okay.
And prior to me being 5 years old, I thought I was Jewish. I had no clue I was black. I didn't even know what that was because, everything around me was Jewish. Went to a Jewish school,
Hmm.
ate what they ate, and did what they did.
Okay.
So my experience in Brooklyn was different other than when my cousins lived in, projects and, my grandmother lived in a house that had a farm in the back.
So,
So
mhm.
I had a lot of different experiences in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is a vibe. Even
Yeah.
so now it's a vibe. There's a lot of yuppies, that are there now. It's very expensive to live there.
Hmm.
Brown house that my grandmother lived in is worth millions of dollars now. So it's very, very different. But yeah, it's definitely a place you need to experience.
Has it made you multilingual?
Uh multi-accent.
Okay.
It was so
Like
funny
Brooklyn.
when I moved from Brooklyn, Ayo,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
okay.
also had a Jewish type of accent.
Okay.
So when I moved to Long Island, it was predominantly white, but all the black people kind of hung out together, but they made fun of my accent. And then having been raised in Long Island, when I moved to Philadelphia, when I went to Temple University, they laughed at my New York accent.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
still say soda and, different
Yeah.
things that still
Only
sound
accent
like New York
I can
accent.
remember or noticing about from the Jewish is that when Eddie Murphy played that part of a Jewish person, I
Mhm.
said, "Oh, okay, that's what they sound. That's kind of the
Exactly.
accent or the way they
And
kind of
Eddie
talk in
Murphy
there."
is a Long Islander.
Is
He's from
he?
Roosevelt, which is the next town over
Okay.
from where I
Okay.
lived, and I actually would see him around town, when he was doing, SNL. We
Okay.
lived in the complex that we lived in, and I see the limo pick him up, and, I see him at the local restaurants and stores and things like that, and he was
Okay.
very local at that
Okay.
time. Mhm.
So, what education have you endured? To do some of the
Yes.
things you do, wearing several hats. I know a lot of people have had, like my father, barely made it out of third grade and did good for himself. And there are people who got masters and PhDs. What do you account to your education?
Life.
Just
Um,
life.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good teacher.
The journey of life, basically, I've
Hmm.
been a student of. I went to, high school, I went to, undergrad, I went to, Nassau Community College, and then I got accepted to Temple University and went as a art major and a Spanish minor.
Okay.
Was not able to graduate. I was out there on my own, and there was a lot of things happening at that time with financial aid.
Hmm.
So I would say most of my influences and things that I've been captivated by, hurt by, loved by
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
life.
Okay.
Life
And
be life.
shaped you.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
That's a good experience.
Mhm.
And you have children? You said I know you mentioned your husband.
I do. I have 2 sons. My oldest is 42, my
Okay.
youngest is 39, gonna be 40.
You look like you 42 or less
Oh, well,
yourself. How you
as
42?
the people say in the country, "Bless your heart."
Yeah, you look like you about 40 or
And,
maybe
yeah,
38.
they're both, Morehouse grads.
Okay.
And, my oldest has a master's in math statistics, and they both are data analysts for the companies that they work for. My oldest actually is getting married this October, uh,
Congratulations. Yeah.
and I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter. My youngest is actually a referee for like the WWE. Like he travels all
Okay.
over the country. He's getting ready to go
Mm,
to Japan.
yeah, it's
Ref-
big.
Used to be a wrestler, but now he's actually refing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's what he does. That's his passion. That's what he does in his spare time. So, yeah, I was really blessed with having two great sons. They never gave me any trouble.
Hmm.
So, they're my bodyguards now. I love them dearly and very proud of them.
Good. They may get a chance to see this and say, "Oh, mom, yeah, we love you too."
I tell them all the time.
So, as they were growing up, were you a storyteller for them? Because you got books out and you have plays. I want to talk a little bit about the plays and the books that you've written. Were you, you know, when they were in the womb, reading books to them? When they came out, you said he was still telling them
Absolutely.
stories. Go ahead.
Well, their father's a book author as well.
Oh,
Valerie
okay,
Fullilove. He writes. It's not the kind of books like the suspense novels,
okay,
and so they're readers. I started reading at 4, and both of
talented.
my children started reading very early on.
Hmm.
So yeah, and everything that I did, they grew up with it, so they just thought that was normal. My oldest, I taught him how to punch in when I was recording, how to do
Okay.
certain things, and they just thought that was normal.
Hmm.
They have a tendency towards doing the things like their dad is a CFO, a numbers person, and basically that's what they turned out to be. They have artistic, creative abilities, but that's not the direction that they go in. They appreciate what I do,
Hmm.
but they really haven't partaken in the arts like I do.
Well, you mentioned appreciate what you do. Was there a moment when you realized writing wasn't something you just did, it's something that you were called to do? Because you do
Yeah.
more than just writing. Is that something that you feel, I'm being drawn to writing or more drawn to plays or this is my thing that I do?
Yeah, for me, to be totally honest, I started writing kind of in my head. I would
Hmm.
watch different things on television, and then I would create my own s- episode, I guess, or change how it went or change what they did in my head. And then I started actually writing after reading Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez
Hmm.
and all those people at the time. Um, but as far as seeing myself as a writer, um, I think I had oh boy, it took me a long time to say I'm a writer
Hmm.
because I thought that was just what I did. And it's
Oh,
sort of like how the people at work fuss with me because I say I'm not a poet, I just write poetry. And they
hmm.
go, that's a poet now.
Okay.
So
All
it
right,
took
great.
me a while to really understand that that's who I am and that's what I do. It's not just a passion. It's who I am. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
It does. So, I mean, if Tyler Perry can make it, how do you feel about the way his path and your path? Is your path very similar to his as far as writing and doing plays and things of that
I
nature?
think
Because he did a lot of plays before he
yeah, I think
blew up.
the difference between myself and a Tyler Perry type of person, he
Hmm.
was very driven to be successful in what
Okay, I
he
like that.
does. Um, for me, I never wanted my art to be a job. I always wanted to be my go-to, basically for me, and in interim to bless other people with it.
Hmm.
So I was never driven to do it as
I
a
see.
job or as a career.
Okay,
And I think, Tyler was on definitely a different plane.
definitely. I agree.
And he
Yeah,
went through what he went through. I mean, he homelessness and
yeah.
everything else he's had to fight to
Hmm.
get to where he is now. And I basically was not in that battle. For me, it was something of comfort, of like even therapy sometimes, or
Hmm.
just kind of giving me a voice because I was always very quiet. And it was my voice and a reflection of who I was without jumping into an industry and it being a job and adding all that pressure
Hmm.
to it.
Well, you mentioned your voice and in your head. How do you feel about when it comes to preserving culture and preserving the truth when it
Mhm.
comes to your stories and your writing? How do you feel about that? Do
I
you
think when you because I'm captivated by other people's experiences and
okay
my own experiences, and so what I
vicariously?
write
Mhm.
about is true,
Okay.
and I always tell people that perspective is reality. So when you have an opinion or perspective of something, that becomes your reality. It may not be someone else's truth,
Hmm.
but they have to respect what your truth is. So I think when I tell stories, it's always based on someone else's life or story or something they said or did, or, so then that's the truth. And it's unfortunately, in history, in our schools, it's his story, it's not always our story. So I think it's very important for us to tell our stories, and we don't have to
Mhm.
make it up because we're living it.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I remember speaking with a maybe a guy, and he was telling me all this stuff, and I'm saying
Mhm,
to myself, none of this is really true,
mm,
you know. And then you can't argue with that.
mhm.
You know, it's like you can't argue really with religion and politics because, like I said, perspective is reality. So they're going to believe whatever they believe. And I just left it at, look, you get to have an opinion, I get to live the reality,
Right.
and I just left it there. You know, so I always tell whatever story that I tell is based on someone's truth.
Mhm. Well, the truth can hurt in some ways. It's like a pendulum going side to side. It could be helpful, but it also can cut you to some degree. Do you hold back, or do you just tell it like it is? What is your approach on that when it comes to telling the truth?
That's a good question. I met Sissy Houston years ago when she
Okay.
wrote her autobiography.
Hmm.
And, you know, we talked for a minute and, you know, she said, "Tell your story, baby," you know? And and I was like, "You know what? I really would like to, but if I did, it would hurt people,"
Yeah.
you know? And that's never been what I ever wanted to do. Would that story help other people? Yes. But I found other ways to put those nuances into what I do right. You know, not necessarily telling the direct story,
Hmm.
but, you know, I do find ways to put it into what I write.
Do you change their names, or you use their names
I
as well?
do, I do,
Okay.
I because the story is a totally different story from what
Hmm.
it is, so the characters will have different names anyway. Um, the only time that I, have written a screenplay or something that has someone's name, I was commissioned to do it by, a person who wrote a book about this person, and I actually met him. He
Okay.
was a baseball player who was destined to be, a superstar as a New York Yankee,
Oh.
but his childhood trauma affected him so bad that he wound up just self-imploding, and never had that career,
Hmm.
but, through it, he got a healing where he and his family could come together and heal. So I thought that was a very interesting story, and
Can you
that's
mention his name or no?
his name is John, Mangalong.
Okay.
And, this is a very, very long time ago, and it's a very interesting story, you know,
Mm,
very, very, very interesting story. Just to know immigrants that came from Italy and the things that, they had to overcome, you know, by moving into New York City, and the poverty and the lack
mhm,
and
yeah,
how they brought their trauma with them and how it affected their children, and you know, the mafia, and how they had to, like, that was a part of their life,
mhm.
you know, and how did they had to live with that and learn how to live in that environment. This is a very I found it to be a very interesting story to see culturally how different we are, but how
Right,
much the same we are.
much the same, yeah. So, being that said, what is the hardest hat that you had to wear that, you knew it was gonna be a challenge? You can foresee how this is gonna turn out. This is gonna be a tough hat to wear when it comes to writing these stories or interviewing them or meeting them or trying to keep up with them through emails and calling, or maybe just, they have a bad displacement or attitude or something like that. What is the hardest hat that you can think of that really,
I
that's gonna
think
be
that
tough?
the hardest hat is being a producer.
A producer, okay.
Yes, the writing, that's easy, you know,
Really? It's like the producer
being an
part is
advocate
easy.
being an advocate for someone, that's easy.
Mhm.
But when you wear the hat of the producer, you're like mother, father, sister, brother, lawyer,
Okay,
doctor, nurse, like, you're the everything, that kind of the glue that holds it together,
okay.
and, you know, when the chips fall, it kind of falls on you. And I think when I did the play, I did a play called When Doves Fly, and, I think that was probably the most nerve-wracking that it's ever been,
You said
you
When
know,
Doves Fly? Is that the
when
name?
doves fly, yeah,
Or
um,
Ducks?
doves,
Okay.
doves,
Okay.
like the bird dove,
Doves.
yeah,
DOV.
DOV, yeah,
Okay, okay.
um, you know, just to be in charge of everything. It's like you really have to understand the music, you have to understand the script,
Mhm.
to
Hmm.
understand the setting, the lighting, the ticket sales, concession, like everything falls under you. And I did that. It was my very first time and my last because
You're not gonna do that again.
I've done other plays, but not to that caliber where we did it in theaters, we toured, we sold out, everywhere we went. It was really a huge undertaking, but it was a huge success.
And do you film it? Is it all filmed also as well
Somewhere someone has
on YouTube?
the film. I unfortunately don't. I have the trailer to it. It's on my website,
Hmm.
trinityparkproductions.com.
Okay.
But, yeah, that was interesting. We had, uh, Tana Gardner. I don't know if you remember that name. She had a hit called Heartbeat.
Okay.
Heartbeat, you make me feel
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was a lead in it, and, there's another actor who actually turned out to be a coworker of mine where I'm working now, but it was
Hmm.
very first piece, but now he's on the road, he travels and tours with all different functions, so it was a good start for a lot of people.
So, do you try and put yourself in the person who's coming to see your play?
Mhm.
You try and put yourself in their shoes, or what are they going to be, and what you want them to experience at point. Sometimes you make it that you want them to cry, or you want them to laugh, or you want them to take this part serious. You envision yourself in the audience as they go, or do you sit behind the curtains and watch from the background, or as a producer, where are we up in the sound booth? Where is your position at? So people know what the part of producer is, because we all have heard of producers and writers, and in our minds we're just thinking producer just said, "All right, cut or take or start," or yeah, we just. I thought their part was very easy, and then they kind of go through the films, and yeah, I like this. No, I don't like that, and then the writer has to be on pins and needles. Oh, they cut my part out, or they added something I didn't even write that part or something, and
Yeah.
that's some of us. I maybe people are watching and not thinking that way. That's kind of what I was thinking, but you kind of told me something different about producers. Give me your feel so people can understand. I know you said you won't do it again, but touch on it again.
I
You
say that, but,
yeah,
they
yeah,
always
on that,
say
yeah. So people
I I
understand the job. What is the
I
job of
think
a
what
producer?
what helps me is the fact that, um, I'm a people watcher,
Okay.
with out of a heart of love,
Mm,
and so when I tell a story, I want it to impact whoever the audience is
okay.
in one way, shape, or another, because I care. So I'm coming from that place. And so you never know when you write something who it's really for. I would
Mm,
say it's divinely given and is divinely controlled
hmm.
after you finish whatever it is you're doing. So I don't take on the responsibility of knowing who I'm writing the story for. I just know, I trust God that it's gonna impact someone
Right.
in a positive way.
Hmm.
And like you said, sometimes it's a truth that's gonna hurt, but sometimes it takes that hurt to find healing, to find deliverance, or maybe even for someone to recognize and realize, okay, this is why I'm here and this is what I need to do, to better myself. Always saying you know better, you do better.
Hmm.
So coming from that position, and putting on a hat of a producer, I want to make sure that every portion of that production is leading to that end.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, but wearing that hat is a huge responsibility.
I bet.
Wearing that hat is very important because it's basically the baton has been passed to you, and it's your responsibility to bring it all to fruition and bring it in the way that it was meant to be. It was given to the writer,
Hmm.
you and making sure that the actors or actresses are able to portray, in truth, what the story is about. So, hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It does, because every answer you give to me leads into my next question. Well, I know a lot of times as a musician, when we finish playing on stage or theaters, whatever the case may be, audience wants to talk to you or wants
Mm,
to I don't know, see if you're real or something of that nature. But when your plays are over and people talk to you, have anyone come to you and say, "Hey, your play or your writing has changed the way I see myself or the way I see the world"? Some of
yeah.
the things that, what are some of the comments that people have came to you and talked to you about your writing or your producing?
I think for me, the one experience that was very impactful was after the play When Doves Fly, and a
Mhm.
woman came up to me, and I didn't know her, and she was in tears, crying, and she said, "This is my son's story."
Okay.
She said, "This is my" she just kept saying my son, she says, "I'm gonna bring him tomorrow to see this play. This is his story." So, it impacted her in a way that she recognized it was her son's story.
Mhm.
It impacted her in a way that she wanted to share that with her son. And hopefully, whatever, needed to be felt by her son, that it was successful in doing that. But that was the first time somebody ever reacted to something that I did like that.
Mhm.
And so, again, it makes you realize that what a responsibility that you have when you have these stories to always keep people in mind that, that there are lives that you can impact one way or the other. So yeah, that was a thing. And then not recently, I did a portrait of a coworker of mine whose mom has passed
Oh.
on, and she's a caretaker for her dad. And it's also on my website. But I did her mom in the middle, and I did a picture with her dad when she took him to a restaurant, eating the lobsters, and he got the bib on.
Mhm.
A, a picture of the mother and father when they got married. A picture of her, and it's all in a collage. And then on the left, I hand wrote Proverbs 31, and then the one from Maya Angelou. I can't remember. But anyway, so that was the picture. So it was a Christmas present. This is a woman who does everything for everybody. So I
Mhm.
figured, okay, this will be special. So I go to her desk and I give it to her, and it was wrapped. And she unwraps it. And then when I say she fell apart and was bawling, I did not expect that reaction. I just figured she'd go, "Oh, this is great." So again, responsibility and understanding what your gift is made for and the impact that it'll have on people. So those are the two most poignant reactions that I can think of that I've had from the things that I've created.
It's funny you said she was balling because I was gonna my next question was a lot of times when I'm playing for the churches I play for, or I'm playing with the band, or just seeing the spiritual sense of things moving, like let me take it to the bad side. If you're at a restaurant or a bar and you see people arguing, so you can see that spirit. Oh, it's about hey, we need to get out the way. We need to leave this restaurant. We need, you can see things are changing so fast. My question kind of was, when you do some of the plays, have you seen where the cast member was, sometimes they're mediocre actor, but sometimes their timing was so spot on, and then they was hitting all the dots, I mean, dotting all the I's across all the T's, that you felt that spirit. And you said, "Oh man!" And then you watch the audience and their response, and the cast member is perfecting their part to give it to the audience. And the audience is giving it back to them, and you just see that go back and forth. Wow! And then somebody started crying, but you already told me someone was crying. But have you seen it over like more than just one person who teared up, or more than one person can feel this impulse coming from the actors and your writing and your producing?
Mhm.
I hope I explained that right.
Yeah. I think because I write in so many different genres and different
Hmm.
mediums, but uh, one of the things is when I tell a story, I'm always surprised at how many people relate to that particular story. Because
Right.
it might be personal to me, but I'm always so surprised that other people can relate to it. And
Hmm.
there was even a situation that I had. It was a personal situation that I had that I kind of kept to myself and kind of grinned and bared it. And I was at church and we were serving, and we volunteered to serve, and it was a
Hmm.
woman, and she was very quiet, and I'm trying to make conversation with her, and we said something. She said something, and it was very similar to what I had just gone through, right? Now, I may had a choice. I could continue to keep it to myself, or I could share it and let God do whatever He had
Hmm.
to.
Right.
So I shared my story, which I hadn't told nobody. I shared my story, and the two of us serving food standing there crying,
That happens. Yeah.
as we're serving people. But, and again, it just goes to show you the responsibility, number one, of loving people no
Hmm.
matter what. Because sometimes, like I said, what we want is there in loving the lovable,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and sometimes you just have to be obedient to the spirit,
Yes.
and allow yourself to be vulnerable in order to heal or help someone else. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes comes through what I've written.
Hmm. I
So
know sometimes I'm at a funeral and somebody that we really all care about, or maybe I don't even hardly know them, but once everybody starts crying, somebody will say something or somebody will sing a song,
mm.
and then I like, "Ugh," then I'm getting misty. And everybody just,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. And it happened with that play again. When
mm,
I was five, we had dress rehearsal.
okay.
Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Um,
It was terrible. I didn't sleep that night because I'm like, we got all these people coming. We sold the house out, and
mhm,
these folks don't know their lines.
mhm.
They showed
Oh
up
wow.
late, and it was just crazy. So when the next day came, it was like I was resolved, like, "Oh, whatever it is, it's gonna be."
Hmm.
When I tell you, every actor nailed their lines, and even some of them put in other stuff, that just put it here,
Right.
on their own, and it was almost like the Holy Ghost just came and said,
Yeah.
"Pff,"
So they
the
can ad
whole
lib.
it was phenomenal.
Hmm.
The musicians, I had a wonderful, musical director, and he had the best musicians, and they had, singers, and because I also write the songs for whatever I do, my
Okay.
screenplays, my
Okay.
plays, whatever, and it was just magical. And yeah, I honestly believe it was the Holy Spirit that hit that cast because the day before, boy, they ain't know nothing.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just at my sister's wedding. She got married, and few funny things were happening, and then they were tearing up and tearing up. I said, "I'm not tearing up. I'm not." My manhood said, "No, I'm not tearing up. I'm not gonna cry for all these people." But no, I know how that is. But I was going to ask you because you was kind of leading to again my next question about the funniest things that happened. Some of the things that either were embarrassing or just everybody just laughed and just blow it off. Hey, it happens. What are some of the funny things that you've ran into?
Well, this actually happened with the production that I co-produced. It wasn't something that I'd written, but I'm co-produced with my executive producer at the time.
Hmm.
In a black box theater. And when I tell you this production was put together with tape and bubble gum, and it was a scene where um, the one of the actors went to call one of the other actors, and he
Okay.
couldn't remember the name of the character, and he was calling him every character in the play. Then he called him by his real name. We were on the floor. We were on the floor laughing. So that was funny. And then there was one where they had made a bench, and they just
Hmm.
had a board over it, like some, uh, crates or something, I don't know, and they had covered it up, and it made it look good. But the actor, and it was the same guy, he sat down on one end, and the other end flew
Like a
up,
seesaw.
and then when it came down, it made a loud noise, and how people, they
Yeah.
ducked. It's like somebody was firing a gun.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, funny things do happen.
They do happen.
They do happen. You just have to, go with the flow. Because a lot of times people will miss lines, and the audience has no clue.
Right,
'Cause they
right.
don't know
They play it
the word.
off.
Yeah, so we always tell the people, just keep going, just
Yeah,
keep
keep
going.
going. Yeah, don't make a strange face. And it's the same
Yeah,
way in music, don't.
I've had situations where somebody forget their lines, and the other
Mhm.
actor says it to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay," just keep going. But
You ever
yeah,
had somebody have a hot mic and they go behind stage and they're talking and I guess the person in charge of didn't know to turn it off or mute it? Or
yeah, unfortunately, no, that has not happened.
lucky
Grateful.
you. Lucky you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, that has not happened.
Well, what are some of the barriers that you find that black writers such as yourself and others that are having a problem as far as the creatives, creating things? I'm sure there are a lot of barriers that you have to fight. You have to put
Well,
on a different hat, your fighter's hat.
part of the reason why it took me so long, I think, to call myself a writer, to accept myself as a writer, stems from the era that I grew up in. I grew up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and we weren't valued,
Hmm.
in where we wanted to do. I remember we moved from Brooklyn. Like I said, I started reading when I was 4. And when I came from Brooklyn, they immediately put me in a reading class,
Okay.
thinking I couldn't read. And I used to read it, and the teacher would go to sleep. So we did that for 2 weeks, and then
Okay.
finally she woke up and said, "Okay, you don't have to do this anymore." Um, I can remember being in classes, being the only black person in the class, and the teacher pulling me aside and saying I shouldn't hang out with the other black people because I'm better than them.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and I didn't want to be. They were my friends, so I didn't want to be better than them.
Hmm.
I was them, and so, and even when I went to Temple University trying to pursue art, I was in the chairman of the art department's class, and he hated black people. There were three of us or four of us when we first started, and then it was just me because they could. The last girl. I begged her, please don't leave me, please don't
Hmm.
leave, and she left. And I did this picture, and everybody was gathered around saying, "Oh, how beautiful it was!" And I'm like, "Oh God, this is not good because if he sees this, it's not fit." He came over and just messed up my picture. I was like, "All right, that's it for me." Um, and as far as and even in music, when I was pursuing music, I was grateful that I had guys who really believed in me, but I saw how the females were treated in the studios and,
Yeah, that's true.
like that video vixen thing, and they weren't taken serious. The singers weren't taken serious, and the
Yeah.
writers weren't taken serious. So it took me a long time, even though and I still work with uh, in the same recording studio now.
Hmm.
This guy, he always treated me like an equal,
Okay.
but it just took me a while to say, I'm a real writer. Because one thing I didn't go to school for it. I did take a class, and that's one of the things that your listeners should know is that you should research, you should
Hmm.
educate yourself in
Right.
whatever craft, whether you want to be a songwriter, singer, producer, whatever. And there's enough things online, there's definitely different schools, that you should go to. So really educate yourself. And I think that's what gave me the courage really to call myself a writer. I completed a very intense writer's workshop called Screenwriting You. It
Hmm.
was like a year, and it was very intense, and I did well with it. So I think after that I was able to say, "Hey, I'm really a writer." So yeah, it just took me a minute, but now that I understand that's my passion, is who I am. It's my voice, and it's real, it's valuable. So
You mentioned research it, and I know
mm,
we're transitioning from Google researching
the AI.
to now AI. So,
Yeah.
what is your thoughts and your feelings, and where do you think this is all heading to? I woke up about 4 or 5 in the morning with an ideal, and I just typed the ideal in and told AI to finish it for me. I thought, oh, this is a great story right here.
Yeah.
It's a great story. So how do you feel about that? And does it take away your ability or your students or people that you're around to be freely creating their own as opposed to having AI created? Or do they take what they have, stick it in AI, and it made it 10 times better than what they were trying to create? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, coming from the generation where I come from,
Hmm.
I could see the difference between like my kids. They played board games. Um, they did this thing where they created a whole scenario on a board. So they had to think,
Hmm.
they had to create in their mind, they had to stretch their brains, to get things done. And later on, they did the whole video game and all that stuff. Um, and I see the difference now of kids then and kids now. It's like they are missing a whole lot of things that would develop them as people.
Hmm.
Conflict resolution. They have no idea. They don't know how to really communicate with one another. They don't know how to
Say that.
care about other people or care about something outside of themselves. And so, and I wonder how it's going to impact people doing like book reports and,
Hmm.
essays and things
Yeah.
like that when it does it for you. I believe AI would be very valuable used in the right way, but it's unfortunate it's going to be a double-edged sword. Just
Yes.
as good is going to be just as evil, just as bad. So to me, it's kind of scary in a way. Um, how do you control it? How do you monitor it?
Hmm.
How do you know what's true anymore? It can put you in a situation of robbing a bank and you've never been there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's very scary in that aspect. But as far as creativity, I took another class with this Screenwriting U, and part of that was how to use ChatGPT. And I
Mhm.
did the same thing. I had an idea and I put it in and it came up with all this
Yeah,
magical stuff,
yeah.
and that's cool and everything. But I think part of me liking what I do and having a passion for what I do is the process of how it comes about from me, through me, you
Mhm,
know. And so when you take that away, what do I have? You know what I'm saying? I have something good, but how much of me and how much of God or where it comes from has to do with the final product. So
mhm.
that's kind of what concerns me is where, like I said, God said your gift will make room for you. It doesn't say I ate AI will make room for you. So I don't know where to really put that as far as creativity is concerned. Because everything good isn't great. Like I
True.
say, all money ain't good money, but
Yeah.
everything good isn't great. So I think the process of creativity is just as important as the final product.
Mhm.
You're not part of that process, and it doesn't come naturally from you or through you. Is it going to bring as much value of what God intended it to bring? So that's my concern. It's good and it's bad. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask you to continue on that, but what would you tell the high school student, 10 through or ninth grade in some cases, through 12, getting ready to get out of high school to if they wanted to be a writer or producer, the steps that you would tell them to go and to look out for, and then use that same principle on college students who've been in, sophomore through senior and they graduate, and then also the average person who hasn't done any college or anything other thing, just want to be a writer. There are certain classes they should take. Or what would you say to that person that's listening?
Yeah, like I said, I believe you should really educate yourself. And some of the resources that these kids have now in high school and grammar school, they've got recording studios that are better than one that I go to.
Yeah,
They
that's
have
true.
theaters that are just as good as Broadway off Broadway.
Hmm.
So they have access to resources, and I say use those resources. Um, if you're going to go to college, take up the courses that go along with what your passion is. So there's no reason not to be able to do whatever you want to do because there's so many resources, there's so many platforms,
Hmm.
that but I say definitely educate yourself, read a book.
Hmm. read,
you know,
read a
uh,
book.
I've done a lot of that throughout everything that I do. I've read a lot of books. I've taken a lot of courses. You know, I was not able to complete what I wanted to complete in college, but I just used the resources that I had. And it's very important to be the best you that you can be at
Mhm,
everything that you do. And being creative is just another place where you need to definitely find your best out of using what's out there. And always surround yourself with people who are where you wanna be. Like I've heard people say, if you're the smartest person in the room, change rooms
mhm.
because you're not gonna learn anything. You're
Yeah.
not gonna better yourself. And you'd be surprised of people who have so and so made it or have the knowledge that you want. Are they willing to share and to help you?
Mhm,
Because along the way there's been someone that has helped them
mhm,
and so that's I always try to do that. I don't know everything and may not be as successful at certain things as some people, but I know more than what somebody else might know, and I'm always willing to share what information and knowledge that I have.
In the event that someone would see this 30, 40 years now, I'm gonna say this is year 2026,
Mhm.
and I'll preface it this way. With the current administration that we have today, I'm not calling any names, you could take it from there, or those who will watch it can research it from this point and say,
Right, you
who was the current administration in those days? Has that affect you in your and also your writing, the plays, is just in your life? I'm sure. How much is gas out there?
it's impacted me in my life as far as financially or things like that. But as
Okay.
far as impacting my creativity or impacting who I am, I'm a child of the Most High,
Hmm.
and I'm not threatened by him or because coming from the 50s and the 60s, man, I've been through everything. I've been shot at, spit at, called everything but a child of God.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what can man do to me?
Hmm.
Um, I just try to comfort people. I try to help people. I try to add value to people's lives, and in effect, that adds value to my life. I can't worry about him
Yeah.
and his administration. Of course, it's going to impact us as a nation. It's impacting the world, you know. But those folks put him in there,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate we all have to pay the price. But hopefully we learn from this. I'm not
Definitely.
sure.
Most
History
oh,
will repeat itself unless you learn from it. And
I'm sure you've gotten a whooping, so you learned from that whooping you've gotten when you were a kid.
exactly. Unless you like
Don't do that
whooping.
no more.
Or you put your hand on the fire. That's hot. I'm not
Yeah,
doing that
right,
anymore.
right. Or into a
So
electric
the current
socket. Don't.
yeah, the current administration is impacting me mainly, I say financially. It's like,
Mhm.
at my age, I'm still working, still have a mortgage. So, and in the real world, my goal back when I was younger, by now I'd be retired, living in Florida, sitting on the front porch saying, "Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
How your mom and them?"
Right. How
That
mom and
was
them.
my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, this is my reality.
Okay.
But other than that, what can you do? And part of it, I've heard people say, "Black people, this is not your fight." You know,
Okay.
just hang in there and do what you
Hang in
do.
there. Hang in
You
there.
know,
Do
um,
you get recognized when you out walking around at the mall or grocery stores and say, "Oh, I know that's Valerie. She did the play or she wrote the she." Do you get uh you have a fan base, people see you and they know who you are, or they start whispering, "I know that's Valerie." And they start staring at you.
well, you know what? The fun part is if I run into someone that's
Mhm.
been in one of my productions.
Okay.
When I first got this job, and I was walking around, they were introducing me to people, and then one of the women said, "I know you." I'm like,
Mhm.
"I was in your play." I was like, "You what?"
So you don't remember them sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay.
because, it depends on what hat you're wearing,
Mhm.
you you're not directing, you're not at all the rehearsals, you're not at the casting, you know, so yeah, no, and there were a couple of people I didn't know. Now as far as having a fan base, I think the people around me,
Mhm.
coworkers, people in my church, those are people that I've impacted, I think, the most, that kind of know what I do or get advice from me or want help from me or whatever. But as far as walking around in the street, um, not so much unless it's someone who has worked with me on one of my productions.
Okay. All right. Now, have you met famous tell us some famous people that you met that you thought was interesting, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 if you have that
Well,
you
coming from Long Island, of course, I've met. I I used to. I'm a sports fanatic.
okay.
Everything, football,
I
basketball,
didn't know that.
boxing. I'm a big boxing fan. You know,
I didn't know
um,
that.
Oh, yeah, I love
Well
sports. I
well,
played basketball.
Pistons, they won, so
Yeah,
it's going to game 7, and
I'm
they
a
gotta
Knicks
come to Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're because you talk about return in Florida, so that would probably be your team if you retire in Florida.
Um, so back in the day, I followed basketball, and Julius
Okay.
Erving and my cousin were on the same team at Roosevelt High
Oh,
School.
okay,
I've known
okay.
Julius Erving since he
Dr.
was in middle
J.
and followed, around with him. And
Uh-huh.
a greatest story, I don't know if we have time for this, but
Oh, we do.
I lived in Uniondale, which is next to Roosevelt, and my cousins lived in Roosevelt. So I used to
Mhm,
ride my bike over there for the weekend. So I rode over there one day, my cousins were home, and I'm coming out. The next door neighbor comes out and says, "Hey Val, where you going?" I said, "Well, nobody's home. I'm going home." She says, "Well, Julius and her husband and they wanted to go around and challenge people at all the different parks. You want to come?" I'm like, "Sure."
okay.
So we get in the car. Now Julius is home from UMass, and I hope I'm not telling on him, but he's home from UMass. He's got this beautiful car.
Mhm,
That car is like just gorgeous. So we get in the car. I'm in the back, me and this woman, and she was very pregnant at the time. So we're driving around. We're going all up. They're beating everybody in all the parks. He's was a legend.
mhm.
He's still in UMass, but
Yeah.
he's a legend. Having great fun. So we go to a park, and Julius comes out. Like, this woman's husband had diabetes. Now he was probably as good a player as Julius, but they could never control it. So Julius comes up to me and he says, do you have a license? Can you drive?" And I was like, "Sure." And my license was like still wet.
Mhm.
So he says, "Can you go get this, him some juice. So I was like, all right. So I get in the car. I don't even know how this thing works, right? I turn the ignition on, stuff's going,
Yeah.
windshield wipers, windows going up and down. And the woman asked me, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, I got this. I get this." So
Was it a
I'm
stick?
driving. I'm driving, get to the store. Thank God I didn't have to parallel park or nothing. I could just pull it in, turn it around, and came back. So when I came back, like I swear, wherever this car is, my fingerprints are still in the steering wheel. That's how hard I grabbed it. So I went to hand Julius the keys, and I was so nervous. I'm shaking. It's going ching 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 ching, and he's laughing, thinking I'm
Are you
playing
looking
with
up?
him.
Looking up at him.
Yeah, laughing, think I'm playing with him. But
Hmm.
yeah, I knew him well. On Sundays, him and the Nets, some of the guys from the Nets, that's when he was in the ABA, used to come and play in the park. I was the person that held all the keys and the wallets and
Okay.
necklaces and the watches and all that
Okay.
while they played. And I also got called in to play once. There was a girl that used to play with them. It was really good. And she had to go to the bathroom or something. And the guy that I was dating at the time said, "Come on, come in."
Hmm.
So I actually ran up and down the court with Julius Erving a couple of times, praying that the ball didn't come to me. But yeah. So I knew
Okay.
Julius.
Okay.
Um, I knew Blair Underwood as a when he was a young kid. He was like 16, 17 years old. Um, I've met Nancy Wilson. I was a Nancy Wilson, Johnny Mathis to me were like the
Hmm.
kings and queens of
Yeah,
music.
I
And
agree.
I had the opportunity to meet Nancy twice. Very gracious woman, just, um, yeah. So I've come across some folks.
Okay. Sounds like you have.
Joe Williams, who nobody would know, Lionel Hampton, Dizzy Gillespie.
Those are
Uh,
big names.
yeah, because Shirley Ralph, I went to school with her. She has the Abbott School on
Hmm.
TV.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I was real good friends with her dad was actually my mentor,
Okay.
and, uh, and I know her and her brother as well. I was at her party at Studio 54 when they ended the run of Dreamgirls on Broadway. So I know Cheryl, I know her well.
Yeah. Sometimes you can be where they are. We on the outside thinking that they have always hang out at places that are, $1 million places where you can't go into these places. Sometimes they hang out at the same restaurants and
Yeah.
churches that we go to. It's not that big a deal. You run across them all the time, but
'Cause I
it's a
think
big
that the main thing is that you be respectful.
yeah.
If they're in a restaurant and they're sitting there eating dinner with their family, don't bother them. You can
Yes.
wave as you go by. I saw Boris Kodjoe in the airport,
Hmm.
and, it was hilarious because he was coming straight towards me. He had nowhere to go because they were doing, like, a construction thing, so there was a wall
Okay.
there. He
Yeah.
had no place to go. I could tell on his face, he was saying, "Oh my god." Here
Okay.
we go, kinda look on his face.
Hmm.
I walked by, I reached out my hand, he shook my hand, squeezed it. We never missed a step and kept walking because I respected that to disrespect this guy's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, and if they know that you're respectful, then you get a better reception.
Hmm.
But if you're screaming and acting crazy, and that's a whole different,
Okay.
a whole different thing.
I usually ask musicians and other people, inventors, and I usually ask inventors like if there was a set of talented inventors. I don't know. I don't know. We could name a couple right quick. Edison, or I'm not gonna say Elon Musk, but somebody, a Tesla or something like that. Who would
Right.
they would like to be with or work with? I also ask musicians if there's a set of musician or a band you would like to play and perform in, who would that be? And they would name off the musicians, I say dead or alive, who would that person or that band would be with, and they would give me that. So I'm going to pose the question to you, if there was a set of famous actors or actresses, dead or alive, who would you like to either produce or write for, and to be in your company, to be, you would wish, man, I wish this person I could do this with that, or I don't know, Denzel, somebody of that nature. Give me your list of people, and it may be just one person that you just want to work with. It may not be 5 or 10 people.
Mhm. Hmm. Um,
Ponder that for a sec.
I love Rosalind Cash.
Okay.
She had a earthiness, to her. I always really favored the people that of that age that had that kinda like a Maya Angelou, they have that
Yeah,
Mother
you
Earth,
can feel them. Yeah.
and they always bring depth to a role
Hmm.
without really trying. Well, it looks like they're not really, I'm
Hmm.
sure. Um, so of course, Denzel Washington, Angela Bassett, But I love folks like Pearl Bailey and, those type of motherly, actors and actresses. And I also like Sigourney Weaver and,
Hmm.
you know, uh, there's just so many talented. There was an actor by the name of Aidan Quinn that nobody probably even knows or heard of, but he was very gifted, and I always liked the way that he played his roles. You know, so yeah, I would love to write something for Denzel. Oh my
Okay.
god, like who wouldn't? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me start some trouble.
so
Do you think the best actors and writers and producers are on the East Coast, New York area, New Jersey, or on the West Coast, San Francisco, LA, that area? Where have your experience said, we get better from the East Coast or the West Coast, or maybe, I mean, I don't want to not include Chicago, but I just want to keep it East Coast, West Coast. Let me just get a little East Coast, West Coast argument going.
I
People
think
see this.
that's
What
kind
did
of
she
hard.
say?
Yeah, because the hard part with that is most of the people in the West Coast are transplants from the East Coast.
Okay. I like what you
You know what
put. I
I'm
like
saying?
where you
Like,
put
they
that.
come
Yeah.
from all over the place,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then a lot of the people from the West Coast come to New York when, when there's
To work
TV and stuff
harder. Yeah.
like. Yeah, exactly. So it's really hard to say.
I think you did already. I think you put it pretty plain.
Yeah, people from New York and from the East Coast just have
Hmm.
a different thing about them.
Hmm.
Some with the grittiness and it doesn't matter whether they're black or white, young or old. It's just they got that thing, you know. I don't know. It's just sometimes it's the eclectic, uh,
Hmm.
and usually they're multi-gifted and talented.
Like Jamie Foxx.
They have, yeah, many voices
Mhm.
so yeah, I would say the East
Is
Coast.
it? Yeah, I would. Is there a lot of backstabbing in that business for writing and being producers and acting?
You know
I
what?
know there is in the music business.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and inventors it is
I
also.
just went to a workshop,
Hmm.
uh, and it was mainly women of color there, and everybody was just so giving,
Hmm.
so wanting everybody to succeed. And so I have never encountered any backstabbing
Okay.
in writing. Now, music was a whole different thing.
Okay. Let me hear your take on
I,
music. I,
you
I
know,
agree on the music part too, because I've seen
and
backstabbing on
again,
there.
coming up when I came up, because I met uh, the owner of a recording studio. His name is Mikhail Muhammad, who we
Hmm.
became best friends. And I'll tell you how God is. I had just moved to the area. I had my son was like 2.5. My ex-husband traveled a lot, so he was at home. I didn't have anybody, no friends, no family in New Jersey.
Hmm.
My sister goes to the store, pulls a flyer off the pole, and it said, looking for writers, blah, blah, blah. She hands it to me. Long story short, I go, you know, I just started writing. I'm writing on loose leaf paper. Don't know how to construct a song, anything.
Okay.
And,
Go for it.
he showed me how to format a song. He was just, very nice to me and everything. I go home and I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I keep seeing this desk, and nobody there. It's like a desk. So I'm like, why am I seeing this desk? And it wouldn't go away. I kept seeing this desk. And I'm saying, oh, there was nobody there. I call him up and I say, hey, do you have a assistant, a secretary, or office manager? He says, no, I can't really afford it. I said, well, tell you what, I'll barter. I'll work for you for nothing if I can have studio time. That's
Yeah.
how it all began.
Yeah. That's
And I
creative
turned
thinking on your part.
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
wasn't him, that was the Holy Spirit. I
Yeah.
can't take credit for that because I wasn't even thinking that. And I turned his studio into a viable business.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I really handled his business, and and that's where I also learned how to engineer and
Yeah.
all the stuff. And I met all these people, the Givens family, Cool in the Gang. Because he wrote a part of Celebrate, and he had platinum records
Yeah.
all over and stuff like that. And the guys from Surface, like Pitcon and all them, they came through. CC Rogers, like there's a bunch of artists. It was almost like a little Motown up there
Okay.
at that time, and that was the beginning of my career. So I forgot what the question was, but
What do you think about the actors? It seems like we getting a lot of actors from England. Everyone likes that accent, and then they're able to change the accent to speak as if they're from America real easy. I don't want to call it them taking all our jobs. I'm sure we go over there and take jobs from over there. So I don't get into that, take our jobs. What are your thoughts on actors from the UK and over that way?
And that doesn't bother me. I think there's enough to go around, and everything comes in waves. It's sort of like, we had like our music was jazz, then it was like the stacks, like the R&B. Then the Motown came, then you had the British invasion.
Hmm.
You know, and it's sort of like everybody kind of brings some of what they do, and I don't see any harm in that, and I don't think that they're taking people's jobs. And Americans have always gone over to the UK and Japan and all those places, to do their art, and
Hmm.
and they've been accepted and received. So I don't see it as that's sort of like you thinking that immigrants to come over are taking your job. It's like
Right.
I don't think so.
No,
So
no.
I don't see any harm in it. I'm not an actor, so it hasn't impacted me in that way. But I did tell you this, when I did Audible for the book that I wrote, the novel, and I was looking for a narrator,
Hmm.
and a lot of and you put in, the qualifications that you want. And I was still getting like, white British people with these accents. And I'm like, no, that's not my story. So yeah, I'm sure there's an influx and an influence, but I found what I wanted,
Hmm.
my particular thing. So, and I'm sure there's people that maybe that'll fit, but yeah, so I'm not an actor, so I can only speak to that other than the fact that I don't think that it should do any harm.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask one last question, and
Okay.
we're gonna let it go. I certainly appreciate your time and everything. How do you what do you have on the horizon so I can pump you up and get you out there, make sure people go to your website. I'm gonna get all that information
Mhm.
and plaster it everywhere I can. What do
Sure.
you have on the horizon as far as projects and plays or stories that you're writing? If you can tell it, maybe it's top
Yeah,
secret and you can't
yeah,
tell it.
no. I am actually in the process of working on an album project for the soloists of my church.
Okay.
We're 2 songs in. I wrote another song, I was waiting for it to be available to come in the studio. So I'm excited about that. There's also another, singer from our church who my pastor is actually helping him,
Okay.
produce an album, and I've been asked to help with the video, which I'm trying to get him to move into doing it like a movie as opposed to just a video.
Hmm.
So I wrote a script for it, did a storyboard for it, and submitted it. Also, a coworker of mine knows someone off Broadway, a producer that's looking for material. So I'm in the process of sending some material to her. Um, so those are the things that I'm working on, and I have like three screenplays that I want to complete.
Hmm.
One of which I think would be good for Cheryl Lee Ralph. I
Okay.
have I have access on a way to get it to her, so I'm kind of putting that in the forefront to get that done first. But yeah, I'm just kind of getting back to getting excited about
Hmm.
pushing and working on some more projects.
Sounds like you got a lot of work out there. Is it easy for you to find work and, get your agenda across?
It just comes to me.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been on that thing where I'm going after stuff.
Mhm.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, and you say life be lifing. But now things are just coming to me, and I believe that if they're coming to me, if they're for me, and the door's open and I go through it, that good things are going to come out of it. So
I'm in
I'm
total
grateful for
agreement.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and usually I always ask, give everybody a chance. Maybe you have some questions for me. Probably don't, because I'm nobody. But if you do,
You are somebody.
here's a quick second you can ask the question. I try and fire it
Yeah.
back as fast as I can. I want to also give you the hand clap and I
Mhm.
appreciate you being on the circuit wearing so many different hats.
All right.
Did you have any questions for me?
I do. I do. What made you who
No
you are?
questions for me?
Yes, I do.
Oh, what happened? I can't hear you.
Put your music on. Can you hear me now?
Something happened. Are you
Can you
saying
hear me now?
something?
I think you turned that music on and
For some reason, your mic went mute to something.
yeah. I, I can
You
still
can hear me?
I can hear you, and
I can't hear
the
you.
little
Now that was
thing is
weird.
still
Say something.
Something.
Oh,
Got me back?
now I got you back.
Okay.
So,
So yes, I do have a question for you.
okay, what is
Um,
your question?
okay.
Let me get
So
ready.
what
What's your question?
happened what happened in your early life that made Derek who Derek is today?
What happened in my early life? Are you meaning in my teen or my before I became teenager or 20 years old,
In your
30 years old
childhood as a child,
as
what
a child?
makes you yeah.
Okay. Um, I was pretty I like to think I was pretty bright as a child. And I was out playing with some kids. I think I'm 3 or 4 years old, and I see these kids with a bee with bees in their jars.
Mm.
I say, "Hey, how'd you guys do that? How'd you get these bees in a jar?" He said, "We just walked up on them and just caught them with our hand and put them in a jar." Really? All right, I'm gonna go get me a jar and I'm gonna try it, and I go slowly creeping up on this bee, and I grabbed him and he stung my hand. I went crying home to my mom, she said, "You can't just trust everybody. You gotta think and you can't, you know, you just gotta use your brain, I said, but they told me. I said, I know they told you, but you just can't. So from that moment as a child, always listen, do more listening. I have 2 ears and less talking with the one mouth and analyze and watch everything and just, you know, uh, things that I used to, as I got a little older, I thought that common sense was common, and I found that common sense is not common sense. And
Right.
then other people would start telling me, everybody is not going to think the way you think, Derek, or DC, or whatever they would call me at the time. I'm thinking, why not? It's not the way I think. I think this is the way everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
And it's such a great diversity in today's standard too. Now it's just we're so widely just split. But again, I like sitting back and watching, as you said you do. You watch people.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love watching people and try to be fair with everything that I do and not do anything that's underhanded or because it'll come back to you,
Right.
think. So I figure if I treat everybody right and do good things come to me, which you are a living witness of that good thing that's came to me. And I certainly appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
to me and doing the things that you've done for me. I just it was just a miracle. God sent. God sent. And I would testify right now, but it'd be a good little story. So, but I certainly appreciate you, Valerie, from being on my show, taking the time out because a lot of people don't have the time. And I know you're very busy, but you took the time out to extend to my show this circuit, many hats that we all wear. So, again, I certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed this.
And if you ever need anything, well, you got my number. You got my
Alright.
email. You got the base I sent you? I think
Yes,
you
I
sold it.
do.
Did you tell
Yes,
me
I
you said
do.
you still got
And
it?
and I play it, but I play it for my enjoyment.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I love you and I love what you're doing. So keep me posted so I can post your upcoming plays and things that you have come out there because maybe a lot of times we have everybody travel to New York and New Jersey area. So maybe I have some friends or family or people from this area who watching the podcast maybe coming out that way might want to see some of your good works and I'll have it
Mhm,
posted on my website and different my social medias. Okay.
mhm. Absolutely.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. Yes.
All right. So again, I say thank you, and we'll say goodbye. I appreciate the time that you've given to me. All right.
Yeah,
We'll talk. Okay.
yes. God bless.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
We had just interviewed Valerie Full of Love. That's her name. That's her name for real. So you want to catch her and some of the work that she's done. She's upcoming. She's going to be a star probably pretty soon. And I end the show with She Wears Many Hats, and I will be talking to a lot of other great artists that wear many hats. So thank you for joining us. I'm not going to say subscribe. You don't have to subscribe. Just if you do want to subscribe, subscribe. But just enjoy what I'm putting out there and if you can be a part, feel free to comment or send me an email, send me a text if you know me personally. All right. All right. Talk to you later.